In the twilight edge of the Andros expanse, the stars rippled unnaturally. From a fissure in time itself, a lone figure emerged. Brian, an alien warrior cloaked in layers of obsidian armor that shimmered with temporal static. With Excalibur magnetized to his back and Jormungandr, the world serpent, slithering beside him through void and light, Brian had a mission no one else could carry: to halt the rise of Zack, a demigod with the power to twist minds and bend fate. Brian's strength pulsed like a second heartbeat, transcendent and controlled. His enlightened mind processed languages and symbols at speeds no human could comprehend. But his greatest gift was also his curse: temporal distortion. He could manipulate time, pause it, slow it, even rewind it. Yet each use chipped away at his stability, creating cracks in his memory and judgment. He touched down on a ruined satellite outpost orbiting Aeon 9. The ground was charred, the air humming with residual energy. Zack had passed through here. Brian's vision flickered, flashes of the past overlaying the present. He saw soldiers kneeling in worship, their eyes glassy from mind control. The demigod was moving fast, spreading influence through fear and telepathy. Brian gritted his teeth and tightened his grip on Excalibur. He didn't have long. Zack's trail was hot, and Jormungandr had already begun to hiss. The scent of divinity and danger hung in the air. It was time to hunt. Brian landed on the surface of Aeon 9, his boots crunching over crystalline sands that whispered with psychic echoes. Jormungandr slithered ahead, sensing Zack's trail with silent fury. The sky above was broken, warped by the lingering aura of starborn sight. Zack had been watching everything from afar. Brian was being tracked. Inside the ruins of the Mind Temple, Brian moved cautiously. The air shimmered with hallucinations, staircases that bled, walls that whispered secrets, shadows that mimicked his own thoughts. Zack's psychic fingerprints were everywhere, a spider web of invisible threads designed to confuse and manipulate. Brian's enlightened mind resisted. Barely. He activated his temporal distortion. Time slowed to syrup. The illusions became static, real and fake separated into two dimensions, and he moved between them, identifying the path Zack had taken. At the center of the temple, Brian found the first trace of direct combat. Dozens of warriors lay unconscious, their bodies intact but minds fried. Zack had used mind control again. These soldiers had fought each other to exhaustion before collapsing, puppets in a cosmic game. Brian stepped over them and pulled Excalibur free, the sword humming with ancient power. He didn't like what this meant. Zack wasn't just conquering cities, he was experimenting, testing the limits of his power, preparing for something larger. And then, as if summoned by the thought, the walls of the temple began to close. Not physically, psychically. Zack had sensed him. The mind web pulsed. A voice entered Brian's head, smooth, arrogant, cold. "Come find me, little alien, before I find you," Jormungandr roared. Brian's eyes narrowed. It was on. The battle began before Brian even reached Zack's physical form. As he moved through the temple's deepest corridor, reality bent. Time hiccuped. Brian's limbs moved in reverse, then fast-forwarded, then paused. Temporal distortion fought back against mind control, both forces locking and twisting the battlefield into a surreal nightmare. Zack stood in the chamber's core, eyes glowing like twin suns. His form shimmered, half divine, half human, his aura seething with celestial power. On his shoulder coiled a monstrous worm, radiating eldritch pulses of thought. The demigod spoke without moving his lips. "You're strong, Brian, but you don't understand the world you've stepped into." Brian said nothing. Words were weapons to Zack, and he wouldn't give him more. Jormungandr struck first, a tidal wave of fangs and muscle. Zack didn't flinch. His starborn sight predicted the serpent's every move. With a flick of his fingers, he reversed the creature's attack mid-air. Brian called out, channeling his temporal distortion. Reality snapped, and time flowed correctly again. Just enough for Excalibur to reach Zack's shoulder. Steel met flesh. Blood, silver, divine, splashed the stones. Zack staggered. Then he smiled. "Finally," he said, "a real challenge." He raised both hands and the air became thawed. Brian was no longer in the temple. He stood on a battlefield made from his worst memories. Lost comrades, planets destroyed, failures, all illusions. But each one hit with the weight of truth. Brian gritted his teeth, fighting through the storm. Genius intelligence calculated escape routes. Transcendent strength powered his limbs. Then he saw it. Zach's fear, hidden beneath layers of confidence, protected by illusion and pride. Fire. Brian summoned a spark. Brian struck the floor with Excalibur, the blade radiating light beyond plasma, beyond fire. A solar flash ignited from pure intent. The temple walls caught first, then the illusions, then the air itself shimmered in heat. Zach recoiled, not from the blade, from the flame. The celestial demigod screamed, not with pain, but with terror. Primal, deep-rooted, inescapable. His mind control fractured under the weight of his own phobia. The battlefield illusions dissolved. Brian was back in the temple, the scorched floor beneath his boots, Excalibur burning white-hot in his hand. He moved fast. Blazing speed turned seconds into opportunities. He struck again, and again. But Zach was still powerful, still divine. His celestial durability absorbed the punishment like a god forged in stone. Zach responded with fury. A psionic blast flung Brian through a pillar. Jormungandr launched at Zach once more, coiling, biting, forcing the demigod back. Brian rose slowly, cracked ribs and shaking hands. Time was breaking around him. His temporal distortion thinned. Then a voice whispered in his head, his own weakness. He had trusted the wrong mentor years ago. It nearly cost his race everything. Now standing against the strongest fighter he had ever faced, Brian understood what must happen. He didn't have to win. He just had to burn bright enough to take Zach with him. He plunged Excalibur into the ground and channeled everything. Fire, time, memory, power. The room lit with an explosion of flame and light. Zach screamed again. Truly this time. The worm shrieked and turned to ash. And when the smoke cleared, Zach still stood, burned, scarred, but victorious. Brian lay unconscious, broken. But he had proven something no one ever had before. Even gods bleed. The battle was over. Zach had won. But he would never forget the name of the alien who brought him fear. Brian.